So we're back for episode 3 of what will be 4 episodes reviewing season 1 of Demon Slayer. Still liking it, Sophia?
Yep.
And also, I tried making a reaction video for episode 19, and a lot of people watched that. I didn't know if I did it right. I've never made a reaction video before, but people are being nice, you know. I don't know if it was good or if they're being nice, but thank you everybody for checking that out. People asked me to. I said I would do it, and then when I was doing it, I wondered if maybe I made a promise I couldn't keep, but it worked out. Did you watch it?
Yes, I watched it.
Well, you were there, so I don't know. Did you actually watch it after I made it?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I watched it today.
So that's nice. I hope you liked it.
Yeah, I did.
All right. But episode
19.
So episode 19 is the audience favorite for this arc, but I also like episode 20 a lot. So we'll break that down as we're getting into it. And then a lot of people are telling me episode 21 is going to be a big one, which I haven't seen yet.
It's fun.
So do you have favorites between 19, 20, and 21?
Personally, I like 19. That's when Tanjiro finally discovers that he can do the Kagura. That's the fire thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, a commenter from Japan did make me feel a little bit better about my terrible pronunciation, because this person said Kibutsuji and Kizuki, did it wrong again.
Kibutsuji and Kizuki.
This person said Kibutsuji and Kizuki were sometimes hard for even native Japanese speakers, so that made me feel a little bit better.
It's a universal struggle.
And then, like I said, I liked episode 20 because that's when some things started to click in my mind about Shinobu. And I can remember that name, Shinobu, because it's so close to Shinobi, which was a video game I played as a kid. And I think it means ninja, but don't quote me on that. Somebody will tell me if I'm wrong. But this 6-episode arc that we're talking about today is pretty darned amazing on its own right. Like, I think you could take this section and squeeze it together and make a pretty good movie. What do you think?
Yeah. It's a really nice arc. It works pretty well, too.
Would you need episode 21 in there to make it work as a movie? Because I haven't seen that episode yet.
Maybe just for some closure, but these 6 would work well on their own.
And I think it's the Natagumo Mountain arc is what I've seen it called. Natagumo Mountain is where all this creepy stuff is. And this is really creepy because I think I'm more afraid of spiders than just about anything. I think I have like legitimate, verifiable arachnophobia. So this one creeped me out.
Yeah, I felt that too when I first watched it. I'm terribly afraid of spiders, so this one just hit on a whole new level.
Good, so you got that from me then, the spider fear. And they don't just have spiders, they have dolls, they have puppets or humans turned into puppets, they have spider bodies with doll heads. So this is just all some really fear-inducing things for me. I think they really want people to have nightmares after this arc.
Yeah, I think they just tried to make this arc as creepy as possible, and it worked.
No arguments for me. It's a totally ominous feel, and I'm into it. I like the horror elements, but at the same time, pretty darn creepy. Maybe I have had some nightmares since I watched it. And when they get to the mountain, to the forest on the mountain, some of the rookie demon slayers are even being controlled like marionettes. Mm-hmm. And I think there's like a basic fear, it's like a universal fear of kind of losing control of your own body or losing control over your own actions. And I think that strikes a chord with a lot of viewers.
Yeah, it would be awful, especially if you were conscious and aware of what was happening, like that one chick was.
Like a prisoner in your own body there?
Like you can tell what's happening, but you can't do anything to stop it. You're just forced to do it, you know?
It really turned the creep factor up, and for a show that's about slaying demons, it has plenty of creep factor. But this arc wins like the horror award from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, definitely.
Hard for me to imagine it could get any more horrific in the following arcs.
You never know.
You get a forest infested with demon spiders. And I don't think you want anything infested with any kind of spiders, but demon spiders are worse. 2 Hashira are sent. Giyu and Shinobu.
I think at the beginning, they make Shinobu look a lot colder than she is. You'll start to see, like, her personality flush out more in the coming episodes. But that's about all that I have to say about that.
And, you know, before they get sent off on the mission, or at the beginning of being sent off on the mission, Shinobu wishes that humans and demons could all just get along. And that's kind of like that crazy crackpot wacko theory I made about Tanjiro.
Yeah, you'll see more on her thoughts about that. Giyu, he's mostly just wants to get rid of them all.
Yeah.
But there's something special about Nezuko that he's willing to take a chance.
Yeah, because he there in the beginning is one of the people whose life is on the line if Nezuko eats somebody. That's pretty high stakes. And Zenitsu's crush on Nezuko really shows up in this episode because when everybody runs into the scared spider, demon spider infested forest, and he's his typical scaredy cat self, which I can relate to here in this situation, it's because he realizes Nezuko is in there, that his crush on Nezuko overcomes his scaredy cat nature, right?
Yes, it does.
Is that going to motivate him more as this show goes along, that kind of thing?
Yes, I believe it does.
And we also find out that Rui is the demon at the center of all this. And he calls one of the other demons mother. He calls one of them father. He has sisters and brothers and that kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. Pretty creepy to think of a family of spider demons.
Yeah, he created the family of spider demons, yes.
It's all like this pretend family we find out as the arc unfolds. Mm-hmm. Which in and of itself is kind of creepy, like a Twilight Zone episode where some all-powerful kid forces strangers to be his family.
I believe in 21 you see why he does it.
Well, I'm looking forward to 21 then. And the first clue for me that something was going on here was when the demon called Mother, she more or less lets Tanjiro kill her, right? But then also just showing the little bit of a gentle side to Tanjiro, what makes this character so nuanced to me that I like, is he does it, I guess you'd say it in the kindest way possible, like a painless death or something is what they say he gives her.
Mm-hmm. It's because when she gives up, he can recognize that she really didn't want to do this. He could tell that it's not of her own accord why she's doing what she's doing. And the fact that she accepted death, as a way to escape, he's like, oh, well, if I'm just going to let it down easily, he could tell.
Yeah. And we also find out that one of the 12 Kizuki are on the mountain. Mm-hmm. And also somebody nicely in the comments told me that that Kizuki, 12 Kizuki means 12 moons. So do you think people get mad if I just started calling them moons instead of Kizuki because I mess up so many times on my Japanese words?
I think you should just stick to calling them the 12 Kizuki.
That way people know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they're called the 12 moons because they draw their power from the moon. That's kind of what demons get their power.
Well, it makes sense because they can't come out in the sunlight. Mm-hmm. So it's a good name.
The lore is that the demons draw their power from the moon, and the demon slayers draw their power from the sun.
Okay, and I've read more than one. I'm learning more from the commenters than anything I see in the show. But I think I'd learned that the ore they make the swords from is a special ore that can absorb sunlight. So all that makes more and more sense. We also see that Zenitsu used to have dark hair. We get this flashback when his master's trying to train him. It's an episode, I think it's called Just One Form or Just Learn One Thing or something like Master One Thing. And he climbs up in a tree and the tree gets struck by lightning and it turns his hair from dark hair to that yellow-orange hair that he has.
Yeah.
That kind of, I didn't know about that part, but it makes it more interesting. And I guess that's when he first gets his thunder form, is right around that time. Maybe he's knocked out by the lightning and he goes in the trance.
Maybe. I don't really remember that episode that much.
Yeah, but it is pretty cool there to see him up there. And, I was a little lost for just a second. I don't know if I quit paying attention for a brief moment. But at first, I wasn't sure if that dark-haired kid was Zenitsu. But then it turned out it was. And also, Zenitsu has a rough time in this arc. And I'm going to guess he has a rough time in a lot of arcs. But he gets bitten by venom from this spider that has the doll's head on it. Mm-hmm. And I guess the venom from this spider turns you into a spider. So we get to see Zenitsu start turning into a spider. But sadly, we don't get to see him finish becoming a spider. But his hair does start falling out when he's doing the transformation.
And his limbs, they get really small.
Now, I haven't seen 21 yet, but you kind of hinted to me that maybe he keeps those small limbs for a little bit before they go back to normal. So
you'll see, yeah.
I love the laughs in the show. I think that's going to be a good source of some comedy. But he does use his thunder form to defeat the Elder Sun. Mm-hmm. So we get to see, once again, Zenitsu is 99% comic relief and 1% awesome. When he just strikes so fast. I guess the thunder form is an incredibly fast technique, right?
Mm-hmm. He's actually pretty powerful. It's just that his scaredy cat nature gets in the way, so you never actually see it unless he goes into the trance. And at that point, he's easily one of the more powerful main characters.
I love that. I love that kind of character. But I gotta say, I'm starting to really like Zenitsu more and more as I watch this show. I might even be saying his name right by episode 26. Inosuke has a big battle with Father. Mm-hmm. And Father is the most impressive looking of these demons we see up on the mountain. Can you just describe a little bit what Father looks like? Like, he looks more like a muscular spider than the rest.
Yeah, kind of like if the Hulk and like a big beefy spider had a baby. That's kind of what you get.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know how he got to be that way, but it is definitely the monster of the group. And I can understand why Inosuke kind of assumed that he is one of the Kizuki. Mm-hmm. Because he looks more like it than the others. Because all the rest kind of look alike, except for the doll head spider body creepy thing.
Because Rui, he just looks like a little kid, you know? You didn't expect him to be that powerful.
And I guess it's by design. He wants to look like that. Mm-hmm. And Rui's webs are pretty tough to fight against. I mean, he can just dice people up with the flick of his wrist. That's almost like an OP kind of thing there. I think he's a little overpowered with those slice and dice webs.
Yeah. It would have been cool if they had a scene kind of like from that Resident Evil movie.
Imagine if Spider-Man could do that. Like razor wire webs. I've never seen anything depict spider webs like razor sharp like that. So that was a pretty cool twist. I mean, I don't know if it's original or not, but it was the first time I've seen it, and I thought it was a great twist. Mm-hmm. Especially because webs can like interlock, you know, so they really could dice people. Like, there's one person, he flicks his wrist and like it just cuts him into little cubes.
Yep.
And, you know, later we get to see Nezuko all wrapped up in the spider webs, and I was worried he was going to dice her into little cubes.
He almost cut her hand off.
I know, it's crazy. And then, heartbreaking, something I didn't think was going to happen, when Tanjiro tries to slice through the spider web with his sword, the spider web actually cuts his sword, so it breaks his sword down to just a little nub. Like, what, 80% of his sword blade gets cut off.
Yeah.
This guy, I mean, he's only had the sword for, well, it's episode 19 probably, or 18 when that happens. He's only had the sword for about 12 episodes at that point. The guy's got to take care of it. Those things look expensive.
Yeah. Ooh, that leads to a funny scene, though. Later on when he gets his new one. Just wait. I'm
going to imagine, though, you can't just get a new one right away. I mean, there was a whole deal. He had to pick out his ore, and he had to have the guy in the goofy mask make it, and then he kind of was totally a nut job, so I imagine you don't want to see that guy again if you don't have to.
You'll see what happens.
Then Gia shows up, and Gia shows just how impressive these Hashira really are.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing this long drawn-out battle. Tanjiro and Inosuke are working together to try to defeat the Spider Father. Inosuke chops his arm with one sword, has to use the other sword to pound it and pound it and pound it just to cut his arm, and that doesn't really even do anything to him. But then Gia shows up, and it's just like blink of an eye, and he slices off his head and the fight's over. And that was just crazy, like the instant kill. Yeah,
it really shows like the difference in power between the three and then Giyu.
That's when we get the reveal that, I mean, I was going along with Inosuke and Tanjiro. I thought that the father, because he looked so intimidating, I thought he was one of the 12 Kizuki. But that's when we get the big reveal that he isn't Kizuki, that it's Rui. Mm-hmm. And that's when we start getting pretty intense, because that's where the big battle that had me mesmerized. I did a reaction video where mostly all I did was kind of stare at the screen with my jaw.
That was everybody's reaction when they first saw it.
You were there, you saw it. You know that I got a big laugh at how easily Giyu was able to tie up Inosuke and have him hanging from that tree with the rope wrapped around him. Like, nobody even saw what happened. And that's when you told me you didn't think I was fast enough to do that.
No, not at all.
Oh, you wait till later this summer. I'm going to tie one of your brothers up, and you'll be amazed how fast I can do it.
You're going to struggle to even untangle the rope.
Hey, don't let my secrets out. And then, is it Giyu that gives Zenitsu the antidote?
No, it's Shinobu. Okay,
so Shinobu gives Zenitsu an antidote. Mm-hmm. And sadly, that stops him from... Well, not sadly, but I kind of wanted to see him like go a couple of episodes as a spider, and then they turn him back. I thought that'd be kind of funny if they had a spider on the crew.
That would be kind of funny, yes.
But from what you've hinted at, I'm still going to get a few laughs at his expense, right? Mm-hmm. Good. And then, you know, we've just discovered that Rui is one of the Kizuki. He's revealed his eye with the mark on it. I think he's lower 5, right? Mm-hmm. And then he launches this big net of spider webs at Tanjiro, and it looks like his goose is cooked. And then out of nowhere, again, almost as quickly as Giyu tied up Inosuke, Suddenly, Nezuko is out of the box, and she takes the hit from the spider web and saves her brother, and that got a little bit of a fist pump out of me. But not the biggest fist pump of episode 19. I'll get to that. And then we find out that Rui wants a sister like Nezuko. So his plan is to try to make a deal or to get Nezuko or kidnap Nezuko. I think he even offers to just let Tanjiro leave the mountain alive if he'll let him have Nezuko.
Yes, he does.
But because it's Tanjiro, he says, heck no. And that's when we get this great fight. Another smaller fist pump. Still, no, actually, I don't think it was a fist pump. I think it was a ha-ha when it happened. But when Nezuko is being held by Rui as a captive, she reaches up and claws his face. And that one was a really nice one because that lets her get loose.
Yeah.
But then she gets all tied up and then she falls asleep. And when she fell asleep, I didn't quite know if it was what was going on, but she has been injured pretty badly. And I understand that she goes to sleep to recover because she doesn't eat human blood. So she's going to sleep to recover here, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's going to lead to my ultimate biggest fist bump. When I was so excited when the camera I guess it's not a camera. When the animation on the screen goes close up on her eyes and those eyes just snap open. That was the moment that, like, I got the most exhilaration in the whole thing.
Yeah,
And it was an episode full of exhilaration.
It was a major turning point for the fight.
And we do see that Tanjiro can use his final water form. I'm sorry, Tanjiro. Because, boy, this is going to get confusing. There is a Tanjiro and a Tanjiro. But Tanjiro uses his final water form. He can finally cut the webs when he does that. And he's only got a little nubbin of his sword and he's able to cut the webs, which is impressive. But then it's like Tanjiro gets a little bit of a power up. He discovers that he can do a little something extra with his final form. But of course, Rui has a trick up his sleeve and he like infuses the webs with demon blood and his demon blood art turns the webs red and he locks Tanjiro up in a cage, and it looks like his goose is cooked at that point.
It's because he can't get enough rotations with his water form.
When he's inside of the cage. I love the visual cues in this show, too. I mean, you get the visual cues with the different forms from the attacks with the sword, but then having the webs turn red really communicated to me the demon blood magic, making him a little more powerful, a little stronger. I love the visual cues on this show. And when he's tied up, this is where Tanjiro comes into play. Tanjiro's father is Tanjiro. And we see those earrings that Tanjiro's been wearing. Those were his father's, and we see his father do this dance. It's like a dance to celebrate the fire god. And then Tanjiro has a memory of that, and really what he's talking about is so you don't ever run out of energy. You can dance forever if you draw like the power from the fire god.
Yeah, he said there's a certain way of breathing, which is kind of what he uses it during the dance. And
another moment that kind of made my eyes open and surprised me, and I saw him do this in the movie, but I didn't comprehend fully what I was seeing. But he's able to fuse that fire dance technique from his father with his water form, and he can fuse water and fire together. Like his water form looks like it's fire infused, which in your mind you think, well, that should be impossible because fire and water are total opposites. Well, I guess fire and ice are total opposites, but he fuses them together, and that got another big like celebration, verbal celebration for me when that happened. I love the way it looked on screen. I love the way they represent these things.
That scene, that moment, is probably what got so many people hooked on this show. That's what fueled like everybody to start watching it. Everybody got so hyped up over it, and then it just exploded. So. And
from what I understand, that like took over Twitter. Like pictures and stuff of that were just dominating Twitter, and that really led to a whole lot of the influx of fandom for the show when it hit Netflix. And then Nezuko has her own vision. She has a vision with her mother.
Yes, her mother.
And that's what wakes her up from her sleep. She's got her power back. You know, her hand is closed. It opens up, and her own blood goes into the wires or the threads or the spider web, whatever you want to call it. And then the blood just lights up on fire. It's like the whole web shoots back on fire. Fire everywhere. The water's on fire. The spider web's on fire. Next thing you know, Rui's on fire. Gets his head cut off in this big triumphant strike from Tanjiro. I love that so much.
Yeah, and what was great about when his head gets cut off is Tanjiro and Nezuko worked together to do that, because he got the sword there and she exploded it to give it enough oomph to, like, actually.
He even says something like the bond between my sister and I is something that can never be severed, unlike your webs, or something along those lines. Rui stands up and puts his head back on in the biggest dirty trick I've seen so far on here. And I mean, made me so mad.
Yeah. That one, everybody's heart just dropped to the floor.
And he knew he was beat. He knew he was going to get his head chopped off, but he was able to, like, separate his head so that the strike would go through, because if he didn't separate his head, he really would have been killed. That should be against the rules. That should be a technical foul or something.
I know, right?
Call the umpire in for the fight. That shouldn't be allowed. Giyu shows up and shows again that there's a long way from step 1 to Hashira. Because he saves him pretty quickly, actually, too. He does show appreciation for the fight that Tanjiro put up, and he's still impressed with Tanjiro, right? But a big kind of shocker, I guess, here is Tanjiro had used the 10th form, which we thought was the final form, but then Giyu shows up and uses an 11th form to break the sheet of webs that get thrown at him, so that's a big shocker. Like, the Hashira, I don't know if he made his own form or if they know things that not other people know, but also it lets me know there's still a whole lot of mystery here to these masters, these pillars of the Demon Slayer Corps.
Yeah, some people create their own forms, and, like, it's just an extension of the form as a whole.
Pretty impressive. I mean, I'm impressed. This is the first time, other than the movie, of course, when I saw Rengoku in his fight. But this is the first time I've seen the Hashira really in action. So, pretty impressed with them here in this story arc. They do show us the backstory about this demon family that Rui put together. We see one of the demons is afraid of the demon slayers and he saves her, but he has to, like, rip her face off and give her some of his blood and everything. It's almost like he's becoming a petty tyrant underneath, you know, the big guy, Kibutsuji.
Yeah.
What do you think of the idea of a pretend family?
It's kind of messed up.
Episode 20, I'm really getting a lot of appreciation for Shinobu. I had a clever boy moment. Once again, get the Sherlock Holmes pipe and lean back like I'm the clever boy. But she is the insect Hashira.
Yes.
She uses insect technique, insect form. And they sent the insect into the spider's web. And she took out the spider. It, like, turned the natural thing, you know, the natural order of the bug realm on its head. And I love that.
It is kind of fun, like the juxtaposition.
And she has a sword that looks like a stinger. And then she's got this great little moment. It only lasts about 5 seconds, but she's just spinning that sword all around and it's flapping, and it really looks like an insect's wings, like a fly or a bee or something buzzing around. And
her, what she wears, her uniform, it kind of looks like a butterfly's wings.
Yes, but she also looks kind of sadistic because she captures a demon. And she's like, how many did you kill? And she's like, I've got to decide just how much to torture you. And if you let me torture you the appropriate amount, that'll redeem your sins and then we can be friends. Tanjiro prefers to inflict as little pain as he needs to get the job done.
It is a nice contrast to two people who essentially want the same goal.
Not only does her sword look like a stinger, but it has poison made from wisteria, which we learned in about episode 3 that the demons are susceptible to wisteria. So since her sword isn't right to decapitate, and they say she doesn't have the upper arm strength, but I think if she wanted it, she could learn the technique, because these kids can chop off demon heads. I think she likes to use the poison, and I think she's the only one who does it.
Yeah, and it's more her style to do things that way anyways, like nice and dainty and whatnot.
Well, just such an incredible story in these episodes in this arc. I guess it continues in episode 21, you're telling me, so I can't wait to jump into that. The next time we're talking, it'll be the end of season 1. We're going to cover episodes 21 through 26, so I'll be kind of bummed that season 1 is over, but I'll really be in the mood to see season 2.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
All right, well, look forward to talking to you again, folks. Have a good one.